If you stare into a screen long enough, your body shuts down. The ciliary muscles in your eyes lock into a quiet, persistent spasm. You become a passive receiver, chewing data and tasting dust, 10 hours deep in the glow of a static rectangle. Message Maestro's 11th album, Terribly Alive, is a sequential map designed to pull you out of this modern paralysis. It moves through 16 tracks to force your consciousness back into your physical body. We start by retreating into a fortress of logic. To protect ourselves from the unpredictable nature of reality, we build mental walls made entirely of opinions, dogmas, and shoulds. Relying exclusively on this cold logic comes at a steep price. The more we try to dissect and control the world, the more chronic suspicion eats away at our nervous system. We end up narrating every breath we take, shutting out the wordless, holistic intuition of the present moment. This coping mechanism is a systemic failure. The cage we are trapped in is built entirely of our own logic, and attempting to outthink our anxiety only reinforces the iron bars. We project this desperate need for certainty outward, seeking salvation in political dogmas and merchant kings who promise fire and gold. Yet we inevitably watch those societal pillars crack, leaving the public divided and the promises broken. We do the exact same thing internally. We fold meticulous 5-year plans into our pockets, demanding perfect execution from everyone around us, forcing our lives into neurotic, unyielding scripts. This animated diagram shows why our internal architecture fails. A rigid geometric grid cannot withstand an unpredictable organic waveform. The machinery we build is mathematically guaranteed to shatter, because the universe refuses to read our script. Survival requires abandoning the intellect. The car has to go off the mapped road, so our consciousness is forced to begin its descent into the body. The drop from the intellect lands in a place where logic is useless against the visceral shock of loss. We are confronted with the jarring resonance of an empty space where a specific shape or a specific person used to be. That internal grief inevitably bleeds out as interpersonal friction. We snap at each other over the most trivial things. True graciousness in these moments doesn't come from forcing a zen exterior. It comes from acknowledging our shared, gritty pain, the visible saw marks on a weathered floorboard. When we stop fighting the discomfort, we realize our anxiety is a fierce, necessary message. It points directly to the tender wounds we haven't healed, showing us exactly where our consciousness is trying to thrive. We have to invite this holy darkness in. Building strict, artificial sanctuaries or using spiritual bypassing to keep the messy reality of life at bay only leaves us hollow. Real spiritual progression happens the moment we drop our defensive postures. We stop treating our despair like a disease and intentionally step into the mud existing between our carefully curated personas. As this generated simulation shows, the brittle, rigid oak shatters under the pressure of a violent storm because it refuses to bend. But the weeping willow survives by yielding completely to the wind, using the wreckage itself as a pillow.
We apply this by inviting the shadow inward. Instead of starving our raw desires and kicking them to the curb, we pull up a chair and let that clinging fire burn hot under the fluorescent glare of our everyday lives. There is a historical precedent for this spiritual combustion. Like the mystic Ramakrishna, we find clarity by letting the ego dissolve into the heat of divine longing, choosing the purity of the flame over polite, scheduled comfort. Surviving the friction of modern life means walking away from the collective hallucination of safety. You must yield to the beautiful shock of reality, and for the very first time, allow yourself to be terribly alive.